Good evening, Razorback Nation. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. So please like and rate, review our podcast. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Porter Hayes, and we're also brought to you by Bet Online. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. So head on over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we are joined by the Metters Hotline, Alyssa Orange, Pig Trail Nation, reigning sportscaster of the year. Recently had a birthday, so just catching up. I mean,
yeah,
getting to go out and be named Arkansas Sportscaster of the Year, huge honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just kind of talk about what that was like to be able to be in the room with legends. And now you are, one of the Arkansas legends when it comes to sportscasting.
Well, thank you. But it was a lot of fun. The weekend, just in general, was really just about networking and meeting people and just learning from peers. And so made some new friends, connected with some old ones. And like you said, I mean, we're sitting in a room. The table beside me, has Bill Rafferty, and the table beside him has Lee Corso, and the table beside him has Lisa Salters. And it was a really cool room to be in, and it was a really fun weekend. And my husband Sawyer got to go with me, and so it was a kind of a networking thing for him too. So definitely enjoyed that. And again, it was just a really big honor to be voted that.
Well, and we had him on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about y'all's journey, how he come from this radio show. You were on the Razorback Report. Now y'all are married and you're with Pig Trail Nation. He's, booming with Hogs Plus. So, I know you kind of got to sit there at times and just kind of pinch yourself and be like, your two kids, your husband, your career, and where everything's at. And I know that that award was probably just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I think so. I think too, you just kind of look at all the hard work that you've put in. And I also think when I got the job as the sports director at Pig Trail Nation, 2020 happened and COVID happened. And so things were so different. You really didn't get to put a mark on that year. And then in 2021, I had a baby and I was gone for 3 months. So I really wasn't able to kind of put a mark on that year. So I felt like 2022 was really the first year where, okay, I got to really do projects I've been wanting to do. And I really got to do some things with our product that I wanted to do. And so it was rewarding at the end of the year to be honored with that, because I knew how much 2022 meant to me. So I guess if you have to say, yeah, it was the icing on the cake for I thought was a good year for me. So.
Well, and rightfully so. When we had you on, 2019, 2020, when you were talking about when you were before you were the director, we were just talking about the pioneers and the women who have come before you. And when we had Sarah Spain on, and, we can just go down this road because our journey we're going into our 5th year of, our, partnership with, being sportscasters and journalists with the women's side. And it's fun to see your growth. It's fun to see Tara's growth. And, now Courtney's coming up, following those footsteps. So it's pretty amazing to see the women in sports. And I want to say, it's been amazing watching Pig Trail cover with the women's sports more. Hogs, you're seeing more and more outlets cover. And 4 or 5 years ago, that's what we wanted. Now we're seeing it, and it's been a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, it really has been. And I think a lot has to do, obviously, with the dedication to coverage, but the result of those teams too. At the end of the day, we would not be covering the softball team if they really weren't that good. And that just speaks volumes to what Courtney Deifel is doing. The same thing with golf. We cover golf because of how good of a program that Shauna Taylor Estes has built over there. And then you even look at volleyball. We ran a volleyball preseason story today for the first time ever since I got here in 2013, and that's a testament to what Jason Watson's doing down there with his program. And obviously Colby Hale's got soccer rolling. And so we wouldn't be, as much as we have this dream to cover women's sports, we wouldn't be able to be doing it at the level we're doing it if the programs weren't seeing the success that they're having. So we appreciate that. Thank you for winning.
No problem. No, and we got to realize, the drive's there. It's just the business side of it. We got to realize, and moving on to that business side of the football program. And really this year, I've stated that this could be one of the most important years, not only for Sam Pittman's career at Arkansas, but the whole athletic program as a whole when it comes to Razorback football, because we're at a crossroads. You had a 9-win season and you kind of had a dip off. If you start going down a downhill trajectory right here, and if Pittman starts getting on hot seat or warm seat or whatever you may call it, it could change the whole perspective of this guy was supposed to be the guy to come change the program and be that guy who loved the Razorbacks. But on the other side of it, he wins 9-10 win seasons. Now we're back on the right track, and it's infectious. It carries over to the football, the basketball, and the women's sports, and everything really hinges on what the football team does when it comes to the state of the fan base.
Yeah, that's true. I think a little bit of that has shifted in terms of football sees what the rest of the programs around campus are doing and are like, okay, we got to pick ourselves up because everyone else is kicking our butts around here. Track's winning national championships, and Eric Musselman has taken that to where he has. And the same thing with baseball, just being steadily a dominant program on the college ranks. And so I think football has really elevated itself to where the rest of the athletic program is. But we all know that football makes the money. And so it definitely is a little bit of a yin and a yang and a, two-way street where everyone's kind of helping each other. But in terms of with Sam Pittman entering this 4th season, I think a lot of us are looking to see that step. Excuse me. The first year was COVID. Excuse me. And then that 2021 season, like you're talking about, where they win, they have really good ones over Texas. They go and they beat Penn State in the Outback Bowl. Last year had some hiccups in it, and I think a lot of that had to do with some injuries and putting pieces together and gelling. I think if you looked back, maybe that team didn't gel as great as this team is right now, and it's early. They haven't even played a football game, but we're hearing just a lot of talk about the chemistry, the camaraderie of this team. So I think they're just a better, stronger unit than they were a season ago. But this is where Sam has to make his mark. I mean, you get to a point as a head coach, you either are taking it to the next step or you're not. I don't want to say in 4 years, you got to prove why you should be a head coach or not. But I think in the world that we live in, 4 years, people start to say, okay, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of investment. What have you done for me lately? Specifically in college football. So he understands. I think that he knows that. But I think too, if you were to look at this roster that he has, I've had this conversation with some people, and I even talked about it a little bit earlier in the month with Phil Steele, that this feels like a Sam Pittman roster. Like this finally feels like these are Sam Pittman's guys. This is a really good coaching staff. Like this is what a Sam Pittman football team looks like, we think. So we'll see if that's what we see on the field.
And before we get into Coach Pittman, it almost seems like we are hearing more from the assistants. We're getting to hear a lot from now. Is that something? I mean, you've covered the teams. It's 13 when is that something that y'all are used to, or is this something new that we're getting to see? Because it seems like we're getting to hear a lot from daily from assistants, when used to we only heard from the coach.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. So when I first got here under Bielema, we heard from Bielema and the coordinators and the assistant coaches throughout the week, every week during football season. So like we knew on Thursdays, we were talking to the assistant coaches. We knew on Sundays, we were talking to the coordinators. We knew on Monday, we were talking to Brett. We got to talk to everybody every week. And it was a little different under Chad. We only really got to talk to Chad and the coordinators and not really much of the assistants every now and then. And then when Sam came in, Sam doesn't like to make assistants available during the year. And so this fall camp is when we get to talk to those assistant coaches. So no, it's not new for Sam. This is just that time of the year where it's like, if you've got a question for, Marcus Woodson, ask him now, because you're not going to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah.
ask him for another couple of months. Or if you've got a Dan Enos question, ask Dan now, because you're not going to be able to talk to him. So it's just the time of the year right now. But I will have to say, we get more access at Arkansas than a lot of other schools in the SEC and around the country do for their media. So to be able to talk to these guys just at all, it is nice.
And just another thing you've noticed, we're talking about the foundation of the team. When you're getting, we're looking for progress. Everybody wants progress. All right, you won 6, 7 games. Now let's go to 8 to 9. Let's get back on the right track. But it all starts in the weight room. And when you're hearing guys that are getting stronger, they're getting faster, they're really hitting their individual workouts and voluntary workouts, non-mandatory workouts. Everybody's in there working out. And that says a lot. From this team, they're really starting to respond to Pittman. And you think you wouldn't have thought that they brought in a new OC and DC with what we're seeing in the media and from the clips and the feedback from this team. You wouldn't think that they're just replaced both their coordinators from how the players are responding to Coach Pittman this year.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, when you look at Ben Souders and him bringing in as the new strength coach, it's just how those guys respond to him. I didn't know much about the guy who was here before, and I apologize, his name escapes me. So it's not like Ben Souders is better than fill in the blank because of A, B, C, D, and E. I just think maybe there's just a renewed energy there. And sometimes it takes a renewed energy in the room to just kind of get guys to fall back in love with football. And I think a lot of that has to do with why Dan Enos and Travis Williams have been so successful. Is Dan has been doing this for a long time, right? And has got a lot of respect. And so I think the fact that him and KJ were able to build such a quick rapport that trickled down to the rest of the offense. And then Travis Williams is just a really cool dude to be around from what we've heard. He plays music, he can rap, but he's just a fun guy, but he also pushes his guys in the right way and pushes those buttons in the right way. Sometimes it just takes that right coach to understand and flip a switch, and things just feel different. But I don't want that to sound like things were bad under Barry Odom or Kendall Briles, because I don't necessarily think that's true. It's just a new energy is going to get people jazzed up again. It's like having a new toy. Well, there's nothing wrong with the toys that you had. You just got a new one, so this one looks shiny and fun, but that didn't mean the other ones were bad. So it'll be really interesting. Again, I say that a lot, to see how this team performs on the field. And as of right now, it seems like the way that Dan Enos and Travis Williams are going about installing their own defense and offenses, it looks like it's going to be pretty positive.
Yeah, and you're talking about the nice new shiny things, but it all matters what's under the hood. I mean, you show me, but you got to win. You got to show results and progress. And we're talking about Coach Pittman and Dan Enos. How they left, and I've kind of said that. Bringing the gang back together with Pittman and Enos, there's kind of this chip on their shoulder of how things ended the first time. And what we talked about before we started recording is, and I brought up a couple of weeks ago, is Sam Pittman gets this rap as this good old boy country who likes beer. To me, it was funny, or funny or cute or whatever when people were running with it the first couple of years. But I think now he's kind of caught on to this. Are people underestimating me? Is people outside of the Arkansas media underestimating me? And is that all they see it is just this good old boy who likes to drink beer? And do they see him as a real coach? I mean, what are your takeaways, especially after what he said at the Little Rock Touchdown Club? I mean, do you agree with those assessments?
Yeah, I think Sam is true to himself and has always been true to himself. And I think now, yeah, if you were to ask, like, do you have a stereotype? I think Sam would be like, yeah, people just think I like cold beer and can coach football, But he knows, and people who know him know, that he's a heck of a football coach. He just needs to prove it on the field. We know that Sam, and the one thing that I think Sam has been really good at is being really introspective this season. He's talked about how we had to change this. I had to change this. I I had to make changes in the way that, one of the things I had to learn was to say uncomfortable things to people in a room. I always wanted to be the guy that everyone liked, and
Yep.
having to learn that that's not how you build a successful football program sometimes. So I think he is being much more open about the things that he's learning in his first head coaching job, at the age that he's at, with the experience that he has as an assistant for so long. So, if people want to just think he's a good old boy who likes to drink some cold beer and, that is what it is, then I think he's okay with you going on and thinking that, and he'll just win a couple football games and maybe see you on the other side. But I promise you, the rest of the coaches around the league don't think that. And I think that's, if there is anything that matters, it's that you have your opponent's respect. And I think that I know that he has that.
Yeah, and with the last two regimes before,
Mhm.
Pittman, there wasn't a lot of ownership. It was always passing the buck, and nobody really would admit that, hey, I need to do this. So you're hearing Coach Pittman say, maybe I need to stop being so nice to these guys. Maybe, like you were saying, maybe I need to change things. And to me, that was an eye opener. Like, man, we
Mhm.
really got somebody, because you got to lead by example. And
Yeah.
if you're running a business and you're saying, hey, I'm going to own my stuff, I want you to own your stuff. And I think that starts
Mhm.
trickling down to the team, be like, because you'll start seeing guys might miss up on a play or miss a tackle or assignment, like, oh, my bad, opposed to
Mhm.
they might sit there and just want to blame it on somebody else that they thought missed their assignment.
Yeah, Brett was very, took a lot of ownership in a lot of things, but I also think too, you get to a point where you can't apologize for everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of learned with Chad where it felt like empty. They were empty words, right? So I think with Sam, we all know that authenticity that he brings to the table. It's more of, okay, you get you get held to a little bit of a different standard when you say that's my bad, we have to fix it. If for some reason it doesn't get fixed, then that criticism goes to, well, why can't you know what I mean? And so it's a very weird thing to be humble and take blame for things, and then things don't get better or they do get better, and then, like, where does that blame go? I feel like we do that a lot sometimes as the media with coaches of, well, he said he could fix the quarterbacks and he's not fixing the quarterbacks, and so he clearly is
No.
not very good at fixing quarterback. You know what I mean? I think you just have to prove it on a football field, and that's really where your words hold weight, is that what you're saying in press conferences is being shown, or it's being exposed on a field. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. But
Yeah.
we have so much coaches talk that maybe I'm jaded after so many so
Yeah.
many years.
You've been through, a lot of press conferences and stuff. And, I even was throwing in John L. Smith there too
Oh,
with,
yeah, I didn't cover him, so,
yeah.
yeah, I forgot.
I mean, it was just,
No one
those.
told me to smile, so I forgot about that.
But from what you've been able to, and we'll wrap it up with this,
No, you're
what
good.
have you been able to see from
Yeah.
this camp, the differences, like
Mhm.
KJ, and then honestly, you're seeing a lot of competition. You're
Mhm.
seeing a lot of people they can't be complacent and say they got this thing wrapped up. And I love the fact that I know you don't want guys swinging on each other or fighting, but you kind of want to see competitiveness and things getting heated in summer camp, because it means that they're fighting for something. I mean, what's been some things that really stuck out for you this fall camp?
Yeah, well, the first day when we walked over there that morning, it was like, holy cow, the wide receivers are huge. And they just passed the eye test. And so they've been a fun group to learn more about as fall camp and these preseason practices have gone on. I think Andrew Armstrong is going to be a really big target for KJ Jefferson. Obviously, Isaac Tesla is a freak. I mean, it's the catches he has there are incredible, but the height that they have over there is really impressive, and they've got some speed. So those guys are exciting. The defensive line is a group everyone talks about. And for the first time in what I feel was like when I was covering Trey Flowers and Dietrich Wise and Jeremiah Ledbetter and like that group of defensive linemen, it's been so long since they've had a group that you can name everyone on the defensive line because they've been around for forever and they're just beasts. And so that's been really cool. They've obviously got a lot of work to do on the offensive line. And then with their linebackers and their secondary, like who are they going to play? They've got the bodies. Can they build the depth on those positions? So we'll see about that. But I think the biggest thing really, and I said this before practices even started, but maybe one of the biggest pieces of this football team is going to be Jacoby Criswell as a backup quarterback. Can we have a backup quarterback that can come into games and win games if KJ gets hurt? And that's what Arkansas has not had since KJ was Felipe Franks' backup in 2020. And so having that kind of sound backup, and he's still got some things that he needs to work on in practice that at least we see in the little bit that we're there. But having a guy like Jacoby Criswell back up KJ Jefferson makes you feel so much better about that quarterback position than it has in a really long time.
Well, and honestly, too, if you got a 3-touchdown lead and you can put your backup in to hold that lead and not really force your hand. You're getting KJ rest and then getting Jacoby some reps. I know that's got to be part of it, having that depth of knowing that you can trust to put Jacoby in there and he's going to keep the lead or even extend it and really make himself better, opposed to, you put him into the third quarter and now you had to put KJ back in because they've scored a couple of touchdowns or some turnovers.
Right. Or you go to Mississippi State and you have a feeling KJ's probably not going to play, but it hasn't been confirmed. But it's like, oh my gosh, so who is going to play?
Yep.
What if they play this? What if they play this guy? Well, what's going to happen? How is this offense? I don't think you have that big of a drop off when you bring Jacoby Criswell in there. And I think that's going to be really big, not just for the fans who are watching, but for a confidence from a standpoint with this team that if something were to happen to KJ Jefferson, there's still a lot of confidence in Jacoby Criswell.
Yeah. Well, Alyssa, it's been very always awesome to have you on. We had Coach Neighbors on last night, and
nice.
Two of my favorite.
Has he got good on the jet lag yet?
No, honestly, this guy, he was I'll tell you what, it's like he just caught a cold. I mean, he's just like when I went to Greenville for the SEC women's tournament, and again, thank y'all for letting me be a part of Picture Nation. It took me 2 weeks to get over that drive because I drove straight out there, visited family on top of the tournament, drove all the way straight back with my son, and had to stop at every Buc-ee's that was along the way. But I'm telling you, just that alone, that trip. So I couldn't even imagine going overseas, but definitely chop it up midway, when women's basketball or if two of our teams join the conference in the SEC, maybe we'll have some more to talk about.
Maybe. I'm just waiting for Florida State to finally break that Clemson losing streak. So
yeah, I mean, I felt bad for my cousin. He's a big Carolina fan, and his son was 7. And I said, I called Dabo and said, man, I want this kid to see South Carolina beat Clemson for him. He's never got to see it. And South Carolina finally beat Clemson for the first time in 8 years. It was really nice to really, for his to, no, I was just kidding.
Yeah.
It's never fun to see, but yes, hopefully, you'll be able to say the same thing that, hopefully your kids aren't graduating before the time that they beat Clemson. I mean,
Travis going to run all over that stadium this year. Okay.
Well, it's been great. That's been another episode of Dog Talk Podcast. We will catch you on Sunday evening.
Yeah.